Hi, this is Mike Caccia with Schneider Electric. I'm here today to go over the new Edge IO product in terms of the My Schneider product configurator that is used to create the bill of material and provide documentation for the new Edge IO NTS product. So the first thing we're going to want to do is to open up our web browser and log into My Schneider. Basically, you're going to want to go to the products menu of our main web page, find the Tools and Resources link. Under the Tools and Resources link, you'll find Product Configurators. This is where all the Modicon configurators exist. And you'll want to put your eyes on Modicon PLC Configurator and select. And right here, you can put in what type of technologies you're going to configure. We're interested in Edge IO alone, so I'm going to clear all of these because I only care about Modicon Edge IO today. After I've done that, only the applicable configurator tool shows up, and then I can click on Start Now. Before I click Start Now, though, I want to call your attention to this menu right here, Save Configurations. This will become important later when you want to go back into the tool and retrieve the work you've done on past projects. But for now, let's start a new configuration. Start Now. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is just maybe look at our defaults. So if I click on this gear, maybe I like to work in inches, maybe I'm in millimeters. I'm going to stay in millimeters today. The filters right here are useful in narrowing down the choices as you go through your project. If I click this, I can pick standard or harsh environment. At the moment with the October 2025 release of product, we have limited harsh environment components or modules, but there is one example. This head module, the communication module here, is actually harsh environment rated. If you need other modules rated in this same way, there's more to come as we release more products. But for now, I'm going to stay with standard on all my modules. The only choice you have is RJ45 because it's Ethernet based. You can look down at architecture and see the protocols that are supported. Ethernet IP and Modbus TCP make up two protocols combined. Means that this product covers more Ethernet applications in the world than any other single protocol. So Edge IO is ready to go for a very large share of the business on the market. In addition, it supports OPC UA, which is a way that OT meets or IT meets OT, and it's a method of communication and tagging and data transfer that relates to pulling data that's not machine control related, but for information purposes. And also it shows expected usage, whether it's going to be in safety, third-party PLC, like a Rockwell PLC, for example, very commonly uses Ethernet IP protocol. And then compatibility, it shows what software packages that Edge IO is compatible with and which PLCs that Edge IO is compatible with. So moving on from that. We need to pick a head module, and I'm going to go with the standard one and click continue. And now it gives you a what you see is what you get sort of picture of your rack. So I have a head module, and the head module comes packaged in the box with this terminator device that terminates the bus of the Edge IO rack. So when you get this in the box, you'll just um, have this as the last module as you build your rack. This plus symbol is prompting you to go to the next IO module or module in general. In this case, you're going to need a power supply module to start with. But I don't need to know that. If I click it, it prompts you and tells you what type of devices should be selected next or could be selected next. So here it's the same filter capabilities. As we get more modules released, the possibilities in this filter will change. Right now, it's trying to tell us, what's available currently. And then the compatibility also exists here. So let's pick the power supply that's available. It's just the one. So that's straightforward. And then scroll down and click Add Modules. And then you see a picture, a preview of the module. It's important to look at the module and kind of review, does everything meet expectations, tells you the dimensions and the power consumption of the module. And then also, you may want to elect to use spring terminals or screw terminals. I've noticed the tool, as you pick this, it tends to default to the same type of termination going forward to the right. I'm going to go with spring terminals here. So we'll go with that. And then the next thing is we have another plus sign. So we can put the next module, and I'm going to click on that. And same thing, filter is possible. Do I want to go with 24 volts, 120 volts? So that'll limit the selection. I'm going to go with 24 volts. So now my selection possibilities is filtered down. I could go with sourcing or syncing, depending on your application. I would say most commonly in most applications that I've seen, it's probably sourcing is the most common. So that limits things down. Now, if I look at the IOs here, I see this is for discrete outputs. I wanted discrete inputs. Let me go back. All right, so let's pick discrete inputs, DC. And now I have the choice of 6N, 8N, 16N. I'm gonna go with high density syncing. So after I pick that, I need to select add module. And now I'm going to go with an output module, discrete output module. So again, I'm going to the technical characteristics. I'm filtering down to DC again. And I'm going to go to an output module. Let's see, I think I'll pick the 8-channel sourcing and add it to my rack. And the other thing, again, just to repeat myself, when you look at these modules, just make sure you've looked over what type of terminal that you want. Do you want spring or screw? And also as a possibility, you can get it with a cover or without a cover. So just for example, I'll pick one with a cover and I'll pick one without a cover, which is what this one is. The second one is without a cover. So you'll see the difference when you get the preview of the rack. So now I want to add a separation power supply here and then put my analogs. So I'm going to go with this power supply right here, add it. It shows a preview. And now this breaks the commons, the 24-volt commons, and creates a new set of commons. So I'm separating my inputs and outputs, discrete inputs and outputs from my analog IOs. So now I need to pick my first analog input. And I'll just pick analog in. We got only, let's see, right here. So I'm gonna go with 8-channel in, add, and I'm gonna double check my terminal strip, and I'm going with a cover. I'm gonna go spring with a cover. And again, here's my current consumption of analog input. Here's my dimensions of the analog input. And if I click the next slot here, I'm going to go with an analog output. I have one available right here. So I'll click that one, add, make sure that I have the right selection on my terminals and whether I want to cover or not. So now I have a discrete in, a discrete out, separation of the power supply, the commons, an analog in card, analog out card, and then lastly, the terminator is, as you can see, as I add cards, the terminator is getting pushed to the right. All right, so I'm going to call this done. And then if I look over to the right, I see a summary of my width. So this width grows as you build your rack, and the total consumption on the power supply is calculated so that then later you can conveniently size your 24-volt power supply requirements. But since I'm done with this process, I just want to click continue. And now you see the graphic editor is done. And I have a bill of material right here with everything involved. So I have my modules, I have my spring terminal blocks that are separately boxed and shipped to you. But the terminations with cover will come in a box. Termination plus cover will come in the box. So you can get with and without. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. All right, so if I go to the right here, after I've completed this rack, so I have a couple things I can do once I've finished. Of course, you want to save your work. So I probably want to go up here and give this thing a name that makes sense to my project. So I'm going to call it my first project. I'm going to call it Edge. First project is good. Just click the check mark. Now that gives it the name. And now what I can do here is if I want to share, you click this and it exposes two ways to share, and that collapses. If I hit copy configuration, I'm going to show you what that's doing. It's putting a code in my copy paste buffer. So what I might do with that is maybe have a Word document where I'm keeping track of my project notes, and I paste it over here. Control V is what I use for that. And it has this long code that you can use later to retrieve your project. So I'm going to move that out of the way and show you what to do with that later. Also, you can share your project by clicking on Send Configuration by Mail. So first comes up is that you can send it to yourself, and it's probably a good idea. So I'll hit Send to myself. The other thing you can do is send to someone else, in which case it keeps track of your name, and then you put your recipient's name and the email address and a message explaining what this project is. And in that case, you can share your project. So if I go look at my emails now, I'm going to open the email and share it with you here. So this is what I get. To Mike Caccia, please find your configuration, my first project. This is what I named it. And this gives you the link to take you to the configurator. And what you're going to need to do is use this code to copy and paste into the configurator, retrieve your configuration. If I go further down, it shows the bill of material of what was built. And that gives you a nice glance. So this is something now that could be quoted or a part of your project that you give to the customer. This out of the way. Cancel out of this. And now going further, what can I export? So if I want to, I can export EcoStruxure Machine Expert file with this extension. I can click on it to show you what it does. And I say keep. and it creates this project in my download folder. The next thing I could do is export a picture. I really like doing this because it does a really good job. So my first project is a zip file. I'm opening up this zip file. And this is the nice picture that shows exactly what it's going to look like when you assemble it. So my head module, my first power supply is always here. This is my first discrete card. Remember, we picked spring terminals with cover. That's why it has a plastic haze over it. Second one, I did spring terminals without cover, so you can see what the difference is. And then the next module was a power supply separating my discrete I/O from my analog I/O. Next, I have an analog input card with cover, analog output with cover, and then I have the terminator piece. Remember that it came with the communication module in the box. So what else can I export? I can export the bill of material right here in Excel spreadsheet. So here it is. And I'll show you that. Here you're looking at configuration name. Remember, that's what we gave it. And then here's the configuration file that you now know that that is used to retrieve the project, should you need that in the future. Because the website doesn't store your projects per se, other than this code. This code is used to decode your configuration. So it's really important to have that if you want to retrieve this this file. So bill of material is pretty straightforward. And you have 12 line items, all your part numbers, a very good description of everything, and the quantities. And that's all there is to the bill of material. So cancel out of that. Next, I can export the project in a PDF file. So now I'll open that up, and it gives you a nice Schneider header. My first architecture, if I was building several racks, then the architecture would include more than one. And then you get your I/O list. So this is a summary of analog ins, analog outs, discretes, in and out. And if I scroll down, it gives me a picture, 2D picture of the dimensions in metric, because that's what I picked as my default. And then it gives you module summaries and totals of your I/Os. So this is pretty handy. Cancel out of this. And then I can export my architecture, which is not real exciting right now because my architecture is comprised of one edge I/O rack. So not much to speak of in this particular example. And I really like this view of the 3D model. So exactly what you're going to get. I will say the way this rack snaps together is the first I/O module is put on the DIN rail, and then this module to the right will snap. You'll snap it on the DIN rail with a little gap, and then you'll slide it to the left, and it'll interlock with this one. And that happens to the neighbor and to the next door neighbor and the next door neighbor and such. And then you might want to know, well, how does it hot swap? There's actually these green tabs right here allow you to remove the module without disturbing the base that makes up the backplane. So this is how we hot swap the module. So I think that's just an interesting thing to learn, and it's really cool that you can see that in 3D and really get a preview and be able to train yourself. It's basically it's a digital twin of the Edge I/O rack. That's all I have today. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach me at mike.caccia@se.com.